I titled today's mind map, Strength of Attention and Richness of Imagination, which is really stimulated by a quote from Neville Goddard, which is, "Man is only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination." He says the great secret is a controlled imagination, as well as a sustained attention, firmly and repeatedly focus on the object to be accomplished. Now, this is something that we want to do automatically, lightheartedly. We call this maintaining the ideal state of mind, the state of mind that's one with the vision. When we imagine ourselves or see ourselves at the end, we observe ourselves receiving the benefit or experiencing our vision in our imagination. In that moment, we become identified with it. We confirm that onto the subconscious, so we find ourselves in our ideal state of mind. What we start to notice is that we feel better. We think a certain way. We believe reality to work a certain way. And we seem to be in alignment with that end, moving towards that vision. And what we want to do is maintain this state of mind. It doesn't mean that we have to be perfect at it, but one of the things that we could do is what I discussed in the last video, is that if we experience tension and reactivity that seems to create inner resistance, stress, and frustration, we can understand that this is a potentiality to go into a different state of mind, which brings forth certain thinking, emotional integration, and experiences that are not in harmony with a flow-based journey to the vision. Thus, we can recognize it and release from that. Go back into our pure awareness, which is beyond the vision, beyond the state. One of the ways that Neville says it is, "I am all imagination and I pass through states." So we are selecting states. A lot of times we're doing it unconsciously. And we want to be more conscious on the states of mind that we are identifying with. This is revealed by how we experience emotional integration, how we think, how we believe reality to be in relation to our vision, how we relate to people, environment, circumstance, information on the journey. These are clues that reveal our state of mind. So in order to go back into the ideal state of mind, we want to, as I had discussed in the last video, understand the law of polarity. Understanding that there are many different nuance points in which a person can become reactive to in relation to whatever it is that shows up on the journey to realizing the vision. And if we change our interpretation, our beliefs, our assumptions to these elements, we no longer find ourselves polarizing into different states of mind. This is the journey of self-realization and the evolution of lighthearted, unwavering conviction and focus, which we've been discussing. And it is a effortless, flow-based way of maintaining a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention firmly and repeatedly focused on the object to be accomplished. So he says, do you know what you want from life? You can be anything you want to be if you know who you are. Start from the premise, I am all imagination, and pass through states. For eternity, all things exist now. So recognize that we are beyond the identity, beyond the states in which we consciously or unconsciously identify with. And from this awareness, the I, we then say, I am this, or I am that. For example, I am the entrepreneur. I am the leader of my organization. I am the ideal boyfriend, ideal girlfriend, ideal parent. We realign ourselves to that vision. Because when you saw yourself at the end, when you did the imaginal scene, you saw yourself as the ideal version of you that is one with that vision. So thus we're being oriented in that direction when we commit. He says, having experienced a state and moved into another one, you may think the former state has ceased to be. But all states are eternal. They remain forever. So we can fluctuate into different states of mind. For example, one of the things that we want is more synchronicity on the journey, more alignment, more flow-based, such as the examples that I gave in the last video, which, by the way, I'm going to bring up more synchronicity. One of the stories that I have to share is one of my friends, when I was in California, maybe about a month ago, invited me over to leisurely things, let's say, because he's a kind of person that he always has exciting things to do. We went to the LAX firing range. He's always coming up with exciting things to do that are things that I wouldn't normally do. So he's the kind of person that when he calls me up when I'm in Los Angeles and he says, hey, you want to go do something? I usually say, whatever it is you want to do, I'm up for it. Because he'll pick something that I've never done before. I have this bias to pick certain things. So if you were to ask me, what do we want to do? I would say, let's go to the beach, let's go to the Strand, let's go to the pier, and certain things that I like to do, which usually involves connecting with people because I love to connect with people. And he said, I'd like to take you golfing. And golfing is not something that I've ever done before. I mean, I've gone to a driving range before. And he said, I'm going to teach you how to putt, and we're going to practice chipping, and then we're going to practice driving. And then after doing this, you'll start getting better at playing golf. And part of me had this inner resistance towards it. And I realized right then and there I had to do it. Because part of my intent of going to Los Angeles was to switch my pattern around so I can experience more creative stimulus. If we repetitively do the same thing over and over again, we might find ourselves stuck in stagnation. So we can benefit from changing our patterns so that we can experience more creativity and inspiration and have more fun. So I said yes, and we went golfing, and he taught me a lot of things, and it was a lot of fun. And we went out afterwards for some lunch, and we had a conversation. And he said, I had an intent that I was going to call you to come hang out, but I didn't want us to drift. And one of the things we always joke about is drifting from Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. We always laugh at the concept of drifting, and we say, we're not going to drift, and this is drifting, and that is drifting. So he said, I didn't want us to drift, so I pre-planned what we were going to do, and I knew that we were going to go golfing, and then when I picked up the phone and called you, I was already gearing the conversation to us going golfing, and you accepted, because I didn't allow us to drift. And I said to him, well, I didn't allow us to drift either, because I knew that you were going to call me up, and you were going to have something exciting, and I was going to stay open-minded, and whatever you were going to suggest, I was going to do. So it's interesting how two people have the same idea or intent, and from different perspectives, they come up with their own story to be in harmony synchronistically. The key is that each person has imagined prior the experience, whether they're conscious of it or not, and then we synchronistically match towards the end. And somehow the bridge of incidents played itself out harmoniously in an ideal way to bring forth the vision. Now, I've given examples in entrepreneurships. I'm also giving some examples of day-to-day life, because the truth is, working with Neville's information has changed, radically so, my perception on how reality works from my earlier stages of personal development. So I find the integral nature of his philosophy, not just in business goals, entrepreneurial goals, and areas of focus that I like to primarily focus on, but in all areas of life and everyday events. Life can be more joyous and magical like this when we commit in our imagination and assume it is done, and then we maintain a state of mind that's more flow-based, and we allow the synchronicities to happen. And in the moment, we release from the judgment, and we intuitively are guided, such as if I was stuck in my head and he contacted me, I would have argued with him for about 10 or 15 minutes why I wouldn't want to go golfing. And he's in sales, and he's been so for many years, so he's quite persuasive. He'd figure out some way of communicating to me to get me to come out, and I know he's probably watching this video because he likes them. Rather than have all this inner resistance, we maintain present to the now and in this flow and in the ideal state of mind. And things happen, and then we enjoy the journey to realizing these experiences. So he says, like a mental traveler that you are, you pass through states either wittingly or unwittingly, but your individual identity is forever. Whether you are rich or poor, you retain the same individual identity when you move from one state to another. If you are not on guard, you can be persuaded by the press, television, or radio to change your concept of self and unwittingly move into an undesired state. You can move into many states and play many parts, But as the actor, you do not change your identity. When you are rich, you are the same actor as when you are poor. They are only different parts you are playing. So what he's referring to is our eternal I that is playing the role of theater in this life experience, the human experience, and the different states that we occupy on this journey as we have different life experiences and different goals and visions and experiences that we realize. Now, this is a very important distinction here when he says, if you're not on guard, you can be persuaded by the press, television, or radio to change your concept of self and unwittingly move into an undesirable state. This is again where we really want to grasp and understand the concept of the law of polarity as discussed in the Kybalion, as reflected upon in the last video, which I recommend watching. So let's discuss this again and add more dimension to it. So it is stated in the Kybalion, a knowledge of the existence of this great hermetic principle will enable the student to better understand his own mental states and those of other people. And by his knowledge, he will be able to aid his fellows intelligently and by the appropriate methods change the polarity when the same is desirable. We advise all students to familiarize themselves with this principle of polarity, for a correct understanding of the same will throw light onto many difficult situations. So the idea behind it is to value the journey and to observe when we are being reactive or have unnecessary inner resistance or tension. This is because we are polarizing to something. Now, as mentioned, we can be unwittingly polarized through some information that is presented to us on television or through a conversation with somebody or a message that you read. We want to practice a higher degree of presence and awareness and understand if that information based on the interpretation within is moving us into a different state of mind. We want to understand the information, as we've been discussing the Stephen R. Covey work, seek first to understand then to be understood. To me, it doesn't necessarily just apply to people. It also applies to environments, to circumstance, and information. Understand where we are polarizing from within, revealed by our emotional reactivity. And to not shame or blame ourselves, but rather understand ourselves and release from it. And go back into our default I before we add the am to whatever it is that we are reactive to. From there, we can change into a different state of mind, do something different, or reimagine it a different way. And as a result, we go back into the state of mind that is ideal and one with a vision, and experience more of a flow-based synchronistic journey. And these kinds of flow-based, magical, theatrical experiences that makes the journey so much more joyous over to the destination. So again, to emphasize, in the Kybalion it states, in addition to changing of the poles of one's own mental states by the operation of the art of polarization, the phenomena of mental influence, in its manifold phases, shows us that the principle may be extended so as to embrace the phenomena of the influence of one's mind over that of another, of which so much has been written and taught of late years. So we've been talking about this. Frame of mind, state of mind. When you maintain a lighthearted, affirmed state of mind related to the vision, the state, what we notice is that reality changes to reflect. People show up to play the theater, and that if you have a conversation with them, such as the conversation I had with my friend, we see, and even I mentioned this in the last video, we're actually saying the same thing from different perspective to play out the theater. And if you engage in conversations with individuals who are aware of how this theater plays out, based on their intent, whether they're consciously aware of it or unconsciously through the conversation is brought to the surface of what they were imagining as a result of something, then you can see how we ended up in the same place based on our thinking, based on our inner dialogue, based on what we are imagining. And what we're looking for is flow-based, spirit of harmony-based, win-win-win, which to me means benefit for me, others, divine, and evolution. So I see everything in relation to my definite chief aim or my goal or my primary vision in life. And I also see that even the things that I do, the fun that I have, the joyous activities, my friends, and all the things that I do is somehow related to that. And that is also related to everything else. So everything is related. And this is to really choreograph and script your life to be in an ideal way. And we understand that we have many heart desires all throughout the day being revealed to us. And so we want to commit to them so we can live the way we really want to live. And then we maintain in this multidimensional way this commitment to the vision. So again, let's value the reactivity and not run away from it and not fight it, but rather see it as something that we can understand about ourselves, of the meaning that we're identifying to that experience, releasing and changing that meaning, doing it at a subconscious level. This is something I discuss in my subconscious mind program, is we want to go in and change the programming that is within ourselves that is causing us to automatically react and go into a different state of mind. And through the mindful practice of doing this a little bit more so each day, we become better at doing this. And then we polarize ourselves to what is related in harmony to the vision. We call this being in the flow, being in the now. And when you're in the deep flow and the deep now, you find yourself not being reactive to information and going to different states of mind that is not ideal and in harmony with your vision, and more responsive to information that is in harmony and in relation to your vision. Then you're able to sift and sort through the information in a very flow-based way and maintain that state of mind. So it comes down to really understanding that we perhaps may be going into different states of mind based on our thinking in relation to the experience, people, environment, circumstance, and information. And if we find ourselves being reactive, we want to understand what are we being reactive to. And once we understand that nuance point of what we are reacting to, we can change our relationship with it in which that nuance point is brought up. But this time we won't react to it. We'll be more present and mindful, and we'll be able to maintain what he refers to as the controlled imagination, as well as a sustained attention, which is one with the vision, ideal state of mind. And he says, you see, when you fall into a state, you can't help but act from that premise. And you can fall into any state. So we want to be more mindful and selective on the states that we go into. And we want to dwell in the states that are ideal and one with our vision. Because when we are in those states of mind, we experience more of a flow-based synchronistic journey. Now, this is not something new to you. If you reflect back on your experience, you've probably noticed that you've experienced this many times. Usually when we're in a childlike state, many of us, I have conversations with individuals, and they find they have these experiences during their teenage years, or when they're children, or in their early 20s. And they find that they're not having them anymore. And one of the reasons why is they're simply not enjoying life and having fun and being more flow-based. They're overthinking, they're getting stuck in their head, and they're very rigid on how reality should work. Thus, they're polarizing themselves to very limited, restrictive ways of thinking that is not allowing themselves to be open to possibilities to bring forth their vision in a more flow-based way. He says, if you're ever in doubt, always do the loving thing. Then you will know that you're doing the right thing. If someone comes to you and tells you that they want a job, don't ask him how he lost his previous job. Simply hear him tell you he now has a wonderful job. Do that, and you will have taken him out of the state of unemployment and placed him in the state of gainfully employed. So what he's suggesting is practicing this on a regular basis. We have the ability to practice this each day with the life experiences, with the circumstances, with the conversations we have with people, different environment, to be able to actually see it from an ideal perspective. Now, this means that rather than going into different states of mind based on an interpretation of what is being presented to us, we're more mindful and instead go into a state of mind that is one with a vision or aligned with what is ideal for the person that we are communicating with. This is also how we become better leaders. And as a result of understanding and going back into the I before we say am, we then realize that we are the ones assigning meaning. And from there, we can be better equipped to assign the meaning that will bring us into a different state of mind. And that is to do the loving thing. Because when we go back to the I and we release from the reactivity, we find ourselves being more childlike again. And through that childlikeness, we receive the love within, the loving meaning that is within us, in which we're destined to fulfill, which our desires are guiding us to, which, by the way, in the last video we spoke of this, the ideas are guiding us towards, and we maintain what he refers to here as I am all imagination passing through states. So look at your world mentally, he says, your present level of objective fact, may be the same as it was before, but in your imagination, hear your friends congratulate you on your good fortune. Then believe in the reality of this unseen experience. Like Paul, look not to things seen, but to things unseen. For the things seen are temporal, while the things unseen are eternal. 200 years ago, Blake made the statement, eternity exists, and all things in eternity independent of creation, which was an act of mercy. 3,000 years ago, the unknown writer of Ecclesiastes said it even more beautifully. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing for which it is said, this is new? It has been already in ages past, but there is no remembrance of things to come after, among those who will come after. So we want to see it this way, that all potentialities, all possibilities exist. And when we see that creation is complete and that we are selecting states, and these states already exist, and all we do is commit to the states, then that already removes a lot of the inner resistance, thinking that we have to force ourselves to change what already exists. Then through the process of acceptance and understanding and integration, we move down the journey of more of a flow-based experience, allowing ourselves to polarize to what is necessary, depolarize ourselves from past interpretations, past beliefs and assumptions, from different states of mind that are buried within the subconscious, that is not necessarily how we really want to be or in alignment to who we really are, which we may have picked up and identified as programming through different aspects of our journey, which seem to bring forth reactivity. We can understand this programming within ourselves and change it through affirmation, through self-talk, or through maintaining the flow, ideal state of mind, the one with the vision. Because then what ends up happening is we maintain that way of being. Information is impressed in the subconscious, and it re-expresses again, only then to witness itself on the screen of space and re-impress again and have this cycle continue again and again and again. As a result, we end up maintaining what he refers to as this controlled imagination, because our consciousness is saturated with this vision and all that is in harmony and in relation to the vision. Then we find ourselves being more like that. Our self-image has changed. As we tie into the self-image information from psychocybernetics, we become automatic and autotelic, as discussed in the book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. As you maintain your flow, you go into deep states of autotelic, where you become so one with and engaged with what you're doing that it becomes your identity. You become so one with it that when you think about it, when you go about your day-to-day, you're affirmative with it. You don't find yourself having the inner resistance surrounding it. You're more flow-based. You know what to say, when to say, how to say, when to act, when not to act. You understand the concept of Wu Wei, which is deliberate action or deliberate doing nothing for a reason, depending on, because you've been maintaining that state of mind. And we do this more so each day via practice. And as a result, we develop strength of attention and richness of imagination. So let's conclude this with an affirmation. Say, I realize that I am transcendent to my identity. I realize I'm transcendent to my state. I realize I'm transcendent to all experiences. And I have the ability to understand when I go into a different state of mind. I'm able to catch myself easier each day if I find myself going into a state of mind based on tension and reactivity. Therefore, I seek to understand the meaning behind tension and reactivity. I make peace with it, I understand it, and as a result, I'm able to maintain the state of mind or place myself consciously in certain states of mind that are in harmony with a vision or what I desire to see brought forth. As a result, I experience more joy, bliss, and ease as I integrate with people, environment, circumstance, and information. This further helps me understand myself, bringing me into deeper realization as I continue this journey of self-realization and my relationship with all. Through the process, as I interact with people, environment, circumstance, assigning the meaning from a place of love. If I experience doubt, I do the loving thing. I imagine the loving thing. I experience people as their ideal. I see them as their ideal. I find myself more connected with other individuals who consciously intend a vision that seems to be in alignment with my vision. And we show up in the spirit of harmony to bring it forth, to reveal the master mind. As a result, I can take myself and help others, and others can help me and take themselves from one state of mind into another, from a place of love. This brings me a higher degree of peace, love, and unity within myself as I move forward to bringing forth my vision from a place of flow. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.